Hello, this is Brian J. signing on, and I'm here to talk about the great Amanda Nunes, the Lioness. I'm here to talk about her incredible resume. See, I'm going to be doing this for the next week. I'm going to be talking about Amanda Nunes, and I'm also going to be talking about Megan Anderson because, well, I had predicted that Amanda Nunes was going to get destroyed by Cris Cyborg, that Cris Cyborg was just going to wash her and destroy her and make it a mismatch. And boy, was I wrong. Amanda Nunes had proven me wrong, and I've been eating crow all day. I was eating crow last night. I'm eating crow right now. So all the Amanda Nunes fans and all the fake Amanda Nunes fans, they're all happy right now. They're all super happy. The fake Amanda Nunes fans who just hate Cris Cyborg for how she looks or for taking steroids in the past, they're vindicated right now. They're super happy. They're ecstatic. And the real Amanda Nunes fans who are really big fans, they're happy right now because their favorite fighter had won, and she won in spectacular fashion. She won in convincing fashion. It was a knockout. It was a TKO, and she completely destroyed Cris Cyborg, which most people did not really expect. I mean, some of us had predicted if Nunes is going to win, it's going to be like that, but we didn't think it was going to happen, and it happened. So I think Amanda Nunes is the GOAT for women's MMA. I do. I think Amanda Nunes is the greatest of all time in women's MMA as of right now. We don't know what's going to happen if Nunes fights Cyborg in a rematch. We don't know if Nunes is going to lose her next fight, if she's going to fight Holly Holm or Megan Anderson. We don't know how Amanda Nunes is going to look against Megan Anderson. We don't know how she's going to look against Holly Holm. If she fights them next year in the springtime or in the summertime in June or July or in August, we do not know. We have no idea how Amanda Nunes is going to look. But as of right now, I am going to say that Amanda Nunes is the greatest of all time. She has destroyed and submitted Miesha Tate. She destroyed Ronda Rousey by knockout. She beat Valentina Shevchenko twice. And all three of those women are pioneers. I mean, Valentina Shevchenko was fighting in women's MMA back in 2003 when it was first getting started. Women's MMA got started around 2002, 2003. And Valentina Shevchenko won her fights, all of her fights from 2003 to 2005 before she mostly got into Muay Thai and started really competing in judo. Miesha Tate is one of the pioneers in women's MMA and Strikeforce. So is Ronda Rousey. And Cris Cyborg is really the original pioneer in terms of bringing women's MMA to the mainstream on Strikeforce. Cris Cyborg's fight against Gina Carano back in 2009 was the biggest women's MMA fight ever. It was the first big fight on national television, on Showtime, on Strikeforce back in 2009. And that was the fight that put women's featherweight on the map, and it put women's MMA on the map. That was the fight that put women's MMA into the stratosphere and paved the way for women like Miesha Tate, Ronda Rousey, and Holly Holm, and now Amanda Nunes. And it also opened more doors for women like Valentina Shevchenko, Antonina Shevchenko, and so on and so forth. And Joanna Jacek, Rose Namajunas, and many others. But let's look at Amanda Nunes' resume. She's 30 years old, from Brazil. Her record is now 17 wins and 4 losses. That's a great record. She's had over 21 fights in total. Let's look at her resume. All right, her recent fight on December 29th, which was last night against Cris Cyborg, she knocked her out in 51 seconds. She knocked out the most feared woman in 51 seconds. I mean, she was a heavy underdog. I think Amanda Nunes was like a 4-1 underdog or maybe a 3-1 underdog. I'm not too sure, but she was an underdog, and she knocked out Cris Cyborg. I mean, this was absolute destruction. Okay, and she beat Rocky Pennington, who wasn't not really a pioneer, but she was a top contender. She destroyed her in 5 rounds. Valentina Shevchenko, she won a close split decision, a fight that could have gone either way, and most people had Valentina winning. I personally gave Valentina the fight. It could have been a draw, but I see why the judges gave to Nunes. She did a lot of good things. She landed more significant strikes, and it was a very close tit-for-tat kind of fight. You could probably give Nunes the first 3 rounds, maybe. But I gave Valentina rounds 3, 4, and 5. I felt a lot of people gave Nunes the 5th round, but she got a takedown and didn't do anything with it. And I think Valentina did most of the damage and had more of the effective strikes. And she did more of the effective strikes in round 3 and 4, in my opinion. I thought Valentina won, but I could see how it could go to Nunes. It was a very close fight. Here's Ronda Rousey, one of the pioneers in the sport. Nunes completely destroyed Ronda Rousey. Granted, Ronda was ruined psychologically after her devastating loss to Holly Holm, but Amanda Nunes sent Ronda to retirement and ended the entire hype train, or half hype. I mean, Ronda Rousey was kind of a half hype because Ronda beats some really good fighters and has a great resume on her own. Okay, Amanda Nunes destroyed Miesha Tate, won by rear naked choke in the first round. I mean, and she beat Ronda Rousey and Chris Cyborg in less than 2 minutes. And she beat Miesha Tate in 3 minutes and 16 seconds. So really, it took her like less than 6 minutes to beat all three of these pioneers, all three of these legends in women's MMA. And here, this fight, she won by unanimous decision against Valentina Shevchenko. She clearly won this fight. See, that's the thing. The rematch between Valentina and Nunes could have gone either way, but Amanda Nunes is the only fighter in women's MMA to clearly beat Valentina Shevchenko. So, regardless of what Ilima-Lei Macfarlane said, Liz Carmouche did not beat Valentina Shevchenko. She was losing that fight. She landed an illegal upkick, and it was a bad stoppage from the commission, from the doctor. They should have called it a no contest or should have gone to the scorecards. Valentina was winning that fight, and I think Valentina will most likely beat Liz Carmouche in the rematch. That's just my prediction. I've been wrong before, but Liz Carmouche knows she was losing that fight against Valentina. And that fight used to be on YouTube, but for some mysterious reason, it's been taken down. So, okay, so that means Amanda Nunes is the only fighter to clearly beat Valentina Shevchenko. She destroyed Sarah McMahon. Now, I admit Sarah McMahon is not a good fighter, but she was a world-class wrestler, and she was a champion. Well, not a champion. She won a silver medal in the 2004 Olympics, but women's wrestling is not that good. It's still evolving, and back then it really was in its infancy. So Sarah McMahon is not a great victory on paper, but she is one of the top contenders in women's bantamweight, and she was a title contender, and she beat the shit out of her. There's Shayna Baszler. Shayna Baszler's never really that good, but she was fine. She was fine for her day when women's MMA was still evolving. Nunes destroyed her too with a leg kick. She lost to Kat Zingano, who's not a bad fighter to lose to. But I think the rematch will go a little bit different. Jermaine Durandamy, one of the greatest Muay Thai fighters of all time. Amanda Nunes dominated her with elbows and won by TKO. So Jermaine Durandamy also became a featherweight champion. See, Amanda Nunes is beating nothing but champions and elite level competition. Jermaine Durandamy ended up becoming a featherweight champion. Nunes dominated her. Valentina Shevchenko is the flyweight champion of the world right now. Nunes beat her twice. Miesha Tate was the UFC champion when Amanda Nunes destroyed her. Ronda Rousey was the most dominant women's champion in UFC history, with 6 title defenses at bantamweight. She destroyed Ronda Rousey. And then there's Chris Cyborg, the most dominant featherweight of all time, the greatest female featherweight of all time. Chris Cyborg, who won featherweight championships at Strikeforce, Invicta, and the UFC, and Amanda Nunes destroyed her in 51 seconds. So Amanda Nunes has destroyed 5 world champions in the UFC. That's incredible. And we go back here some more. Okay, both of those women not that great. Raquel, she was in title contention, but not really that great. I mean, she did lose to Sarah Diallo, or I can't really pronounce her last name, but she was an okay fighter. But she didn't really evolve much. She lost to Alexis Davis. Alexis Davis was good in her prime, but she destroyed Edie Ann Gomez. Edie Ann Gomez was good. Vanessa Porto was good during her time. I don't think either one of these women were ever champions, and maybe in another organization, but not in the UFC, probably not in Invicta. Julia Budd is currently the Bellator champion, and as you can see, Amanda Nunes knocked her out in 14 seconds, one of the fastest knockouts in MMA history. It was a devastating knockout. It happened on Showtime, I think in Strikeforce, and Julia Budd, this happened back in January 7th of 2011, and now Julia Budd is the Bellator champion right now at featherweight. Vanessa Porto. So yeah, I mean, Amanda Nunes has had a really great resume. She's had a great legacy. She's being elite level. She lost her professional debut against Anna Maria. I have no idea who that is, but we all start somewhere. So yeah, looking at her resume and seeing all these, she's being at least. So there's Cyborg, who is a champion. Valentina Shevchenko is a current champion. Ronda, Miesha used to be champion. Jermaine Durandamy was a champion. And Julia Budd is a champion. So that's, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. 6 champions. She's been at least 6 champions in MMA in her career. And at least 4 of them were UFC champions. When Amanda Nunes, 4 of them are UFC champions. I mean, Amanda Nunes destroyed two fighters who were champions, with Chris Cyborg and Miesha Tate, and she destroyed Ronda Rousey, who's a pioneer. Valentina Shevchenko, who's a pioneer, beat her twice. Amanda Nunes is the GOAT. I'm sorry. She is the greatest of all time. These These are five. These are six great fighters. These are, well, okay. Cyborg, Valentina, Jermaine Durandamy are great fighters. Julia Budd is good. Ronda was really good, but she wasn't a good striker. She was mostly great at grappling and judo. Miesha Tate was a really good wrestler, not great at striking, but she was a pioneer. And Amanda Nunes destroyed all of them. She beat all of them. So I think based on resume and based on her accomplishments and based on the people that she's beaten, I have to say and I have to admit that Amanda Nunes is the greatest of all time as of right now. I think Amanda Nunes is the GOAT in women's MMA. She's the greatest female fighter to ever live. She's the best pound for pound number one female fighter in the world right now. She should be ranked number one pound for pound. And the UFC's pound for pound rankings, I think Amanda Nunes should be ranked number 2. Right under Daniel Cormier. I think Daniel Cormier should be number 1, with Amanda Nunes number 2, Max Holloway number 3, and number 4, Khabib, and number 5, TJ Dillashaw, 6, Henry Cejudo, then Tony Ferguson, and so on and so forth. I forget. I don't know who to put at 8, 9, and 10. I guess number 8 I put Rose Namajunas. Number 9 I put Valentina Shevchenko. And number 10 Jessica Andrade. I guess. I mean, I'm pretty sure. Or Robert Whittaker. I put Robert Whittaker at number 8. Like it's. I'm not. I'll put the list in my own head another time. Hopefully the UFC will have a really great update on their list next week. But Amanda Nunes, got to put her number 2 or number 3 in the top 3 pound for pound list for the UFC and for women's MMA on the rankings. I think Amanda Nunes is number 1 pound for pound. She did it. She's American Top Team has turned her into an incredible fighter, y'all. She's a great fighter now. She's great all around. She's worked on her stamina. She's gone 5 rounds. Won both of those fights, 5-round fights against Valentina and Rocky Pennington. She's destroyed Chris Cyborg in 51 seconds. And this is not the Amanda Nunes that got destroyed by Kat Zingano 4 years ago. It's just not that type of party anymore. This Amanda Nunes with American Top Team, this is an all-time great fighter. And congratulations to her and shout out to Amanda Nunes. I think Amanda Nunes is the GOAT for women's MMA. That's just my opinion. Y'all could disagree. You could agree. I don't care. I'm sticking to it. And this is Brian J. signing off for now.